Right then, we're about to dive into a retelling of a classic. And, let me tell you, it's a deeply unsettling story. It's all about a man who goes to bed one night, perfectly normal, and wakes up the next morning as something, well, something else entirely. Something monstrous. Let's get into it. The story doesn't ease you in. Oh no, it starts with this sudden, violent lurch in reality. It's not a gradual change, it's instantaneous, a disorienting fall into a whole new existence. It's exactly like a trapdoor has just opened up right beneath your feet while you were sleeping.
And that fall begins, as so many disasters do really, in the quiet of an ordinary bedroom. So this first part, it's all about that moment of waking up and the immediate chaotic fallout that follows.
So before all this madness, who was Gregor Samsa? Well, he was a man who was basically defined by how useful he was. He was a traveling salesman, sure, but more than that, he was the solution to his family's money problems. He was working his fingers to the bone to pay off his father's debt, supporting his parents and his sister. His entire life was just this relentless cycle of trains and work, and all of it for them. He wasn't really a person, was he? He was a function. And then, just like that, in a single moment, that function stopped. He wakes up to find himself turned into this literal, grotesque insect. And we're talking a hard, armored shell for a back, a domed belly, and dozens of these thin, pitifully useless legs just waving about in the air. This isn't some metaphor, This is his new, physical, horrifying reality.
But here's the truly bonkers part. His reaction. He's become a monstrous bug, and yet his first panicked thought is about being late for work. It just brilliantly shows how deep that sense of duty was hammered into him. His own horrifying transformation is somehow less important than the fear of not getting to the office on time.
When he finally manages to get the door open, any little hope of help or compassion just evaporates. The reaction is immediate and it is brutal. The chief clerk from his office, who's come to see what's going on, literally legs it in terror. His mother faints dead away, and his father, who'd been this passive figure, grabs a newspaper and just violently shoves him back into his room. He's a creature to be hidden.
So just like that, Gregor is a prisoner in his own bedroom. And this confinement, this is the next phase of his story, where the isolation starts to change not just him, but everyone around him.
And nothing, absolutely nothing, shows how far he's gone from his old self more than this. The food he used to love, simple things like milk and bread, now it just disgusts him. His new body craves decay, garbage, all the things a human would chuck in the bin. He is becoming something truly other, even in his most basic instincts.
And as Gregor sort of physically shrinks from view, the family completely reshapes itself around the hole he's left. His sister, Great, she takes on the reluctant job of feeding him. His father, amazingly, finds a new strength. He gets a job, puts on a uniform, and gets back this authority he'd lost ages ago. It's a cruel, cruel irony, isn't it? The weaker and more helpless Gregor becomes, the stronger his father seems to get.
This is such a pivotal moment. His sister and mother decide to clear out all the furniture from his room, to give him more space to crawl around. Gregor's watching, panicking as his entire past is being erased. When they go for the last thing, a picture of a woman in fur that he'd framed, he just surges out and presses his insect body flat against it. He can't speak, he can't explain anything, but he is desperately trying to hold on to one last piece of the man he once was.
And of course, this act of desperation leads directly to disaster. His father comes home, finds his wife has fainted at the sight of Gregor. Seeing this creature on the wall, his father's face just hardens. He grabs apples from a fruit bowl and starts pelting them at his son. One of them finds its mark, lodging deep in Gregor's shell. It's a vicious, final sort of attack, and it's a wound from which he will never, ever recover.
That apple, well, that marks the beginning of the end. The final part of this story is a slow, quiet decay, as both Gregor's body and his family's last little bits of care just begin to rot away.
No one even tries to remove the apple. It's just left there, festering in his back, slowly poisoning him. His sister Gretti's visits become a chore. Soon she stops cleaning his room at all, and it just becomes a dumping ground for junk and rubbish. He's not even a monster to be feared anymore. He's just an inconvenience to be ignored.
And yet, somehow a tiny spark of his former self is still in there. One evening, Greta is playing the violin for the family's new lodgers. The music drifts into Gregor's room and it stirs something deep inside him. He feels compelled to crawl out, drawn by this beautiful, human sound.
But this act, born from a love of music, is his final mistake. The lodgers spot him, and all hell breaks loose.
The lodgers threaten to leave without paying, and in the panic, it's Greet, his own sister, his former keeper, who delivers the final sentence. She turns to her parents and declares, with this cold finality, that this thing is not Gregor, that they've done enough. It has to go. That's it. That's the moment the family formally, finally, gives up on him.
So he crawls back to his room, and in the early hours of the morning, he dies. And here's the real gut punch. His final thoughts aren't of bitterness or anger. He thinks of his family with love, or, as the original text puts it, with whatever love looks like when it's been compressed into the body of a dying insect.
The contrast the next morning is absolutely chilling. The cleaner finds his body and just gets rid of it like so much rubbish. And the family? They don't mourn. They take a day off, they go for a tram ride into the countryside and talk brightly about the future, about moving house, about finding Greta a husband. It's as if this huge weight has been lifted from their shoulders.
So what are we supposed to make of all this? What's the point of such a bleak and bizarre story? Well, the true meaning, the real horror of it all, isn't what you might think.
Because, you see, the story isn't really about a man turning into a bug. That's just the catalyst. The monstrous transformation is honestly the least monstrous thing that actually happens in this tale.
The true horror is the human reaction. It's how quickly, how easily a family can discard one of its own once he's no longer useful. Gregor the provider, he was cherished. Gregor the burden was left to rot. It's that simple.
And this is why the story sticks with you. It forces us to look at our own lives. We all know what it's like to feel valued only for what we can provide. And maybe, if we're being really honest with ourselves, we've all been guilty of overlooking the person who's carrying all the weight for us. These roles, they're timeless.
And so, the story leaves us with this deeply uncomfortable question. In the relationships that define your life, at home, at work, wherever, are you the one being carried, or are you the one doing the carrying? And what happens when the carrying stops? It's something worth thinking about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.